too. But anyway, in terms of frequencies, okay, here we are. Now we're going to go back into the linear track in the dimensions of time and space. Okay, now on linear time, we have one point which is connected to another point, right? Now let's say we're going to take all of these points, because we know this is how linear time works. We have an infinite amount of now moments in terms of what we can experience. Infinite amount of now moments. But in terms of how those are interconnected, in terms of the evolution, it's based on frequencies. Okay? So wherever you happen to be, you're in a frequency wave, so to speak. So you're going to ride that wave. Until you change the frequency, you have to ride that wave. But let's just take one point out. Here's a point. Now, let's say that this point was the end of one of my physical incarnations. And now, I'm going to have, I know Christians don't like the idea of having a reincarnation, so let's call it, like the Hindus, I like their term, let's call this the transmigration of soul from one body to another body. Okay? We lost this body, that physical body, and now we're going to start with a new physical body. Still me, and wherever I was in terms of frequency, there I am in terms of frequency. I got a new body. All right? Just like I get a new car. Doesn't change me, unless I get myself a Lamborghini. Might change me.
That would change.
That would change me a little. No, not really.
Same frequency?
We are the same frequency, whether I'm in this body or this body, until the I am. Now, see, again, we have to disassociate ourselves from identifying with the body as the frequency. We're looking at the I am as the frequency. Okay? Just like that woman we're talking about that was studying the brain, and she was witnessing herself, and so on and so on and so on. Wherever we are as spirit, in terms of our awareness is key. Awareness of, I'm going to put true self. Awareness of true self, because the true self is spiritual. Spiritual and one with God. Because in reality, we are God in expression. Right? So, wherever my level of awareness is at any given point in time in terms of eternity, I'm going to be operating at a frequency. Okay? Now, if I leave this body, I go outside, step in front of that bus coming by, and now all of a sudden I'm going to have a transmigration of soul. I'm out of here. And then I go somewhere else. Well, if I jump into a body over here, I'm going to be operating at the frequency where I am. Right? There's nothing in creation that's going to instantaneously transform me into an enlightened being. Can't happen.
Makes sense.
No one can interfere in my free will. And no one can interfere in your free will. We all have free will to say, I'm a spiritual being, unconditionally loving, one with God, or I'm going to judge everything and everyone. I'm going to judge myself. I'm going to be who I am, and I want this. But whatever thoughts we have, they're ours. They're uniquely ours, and we have a right to choose those. It will set the tone for experience. Simple. So now, when you say we choose our parents, okay, all right, so here, let's say, I'm going to go, here's the in-between. I'm in between now, before I come into another physical body. Now, I'm at a frequency. There are certain things that I have attachments to. There's a certain amount of karma that I have to deal with. I've created a lot of baggage that I'm carrying along with me. What do I want to work on? That's up, again, it's up to me. There's nothing in creation that says you must do this or you must do that. The only ones that do that is we tell our children, you must do. I don't care what Johnny does, you do what I... No, we tell our kids what they have to do, but no one else tells spirit what we have to do. We have total free will. God gives you total freedom to do whatever you want to do. Play the game. You may create a lot of pain and suffering for yourself if you choose certain roads, but that's okay. It's learning. It's all for growth. But anyway, let's get back to this. Here we are in the in-between. Now you say we can choose our parents. I totally agree. You choose the circumstances to work on whatever part of self needs to be worked on. Whatever I'm holding on to. And of course, we all have different aspects and different things that we focus and hone in on, that we hold, and we're probably all unique in that we all have our own stuff. Maybe some similarities between different people, but uniquely, yours is yours, mine's mine, we all have our own. And this is why we're all on our unique path. Now, based on that, we all can make a decision. What are you going to do with this incarnation? And we've all agreed to do something in this realm. We've all agreed to play roles, and here we are playing. We're playing whatever. I was a father businessman and whatever. And here I am, whatever. But anyway, we decide what the circumstances are going to be, and then we come into the world, and we can either follow that track, or we can alter it. Again, everything is contingent upon the fact that we have free will. No one and nothing in creation can interfere with that. That means you can always change your mind. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of creation, is that at any given moment, and I know I talk about this over and over and over in here, and you don't hear too many people talking about the fact that you don't have to play at going through the linear track. You can wake up right here, right now, and in reality, there is a part of self, that true spiritual self, already exists in the awakened state. As a human, you're not recognizing that, I'm sure. Even as as a spiritual being, you would, if you could get in touch with your true spiritual self. The problem is, when we many times go into a meditation even, until you've practiced and practiced and practiced letting go of the ego mind, many times we'll go into a meditation and the ego comes right with us. Right into the meditation. And this is why sometimes people will say, remember years ago, the devil made me do it. Remember that one again? The devil made me, the devil, I heard a voice. I heard voices outside, they told me I had to do it, I was directed. And there are many things that people will do. Somebody brought up the point about the Ouija board. I think that was our buddy from Ireland that night. Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember what was his name. Do you remember?
Oh boy.
John.
Was it John? Yeah, John from Ireland. Anyway, he brought up, and actually now, let me say this. He brought up a point which is kind of true and kind of false. The Ouija board can be a very dangerous thing for someone who's of a very judgmental mind and a very, very low frequency and listens to what they receive. Okay, we turn on the radio, what channel are we going to get? What channel are you getting?
96 K-Rock. I don't know.
What channel would you get, Mickey?
Listen to it.
94.5.
What channel do you get when you turn on the radio?
I get the light.
92.5.
92, you get the light. Gary?
Whole bunch of buttons, whichever one it is.
Whichever one it is. whichever one we tune into is what we're going to get. And it's going to be, just like if we had 1,000 people here, most likely everyone's going to have their own take as to what they want to listen to. Well, it's no different when we tune in. We go into a meditation. If we are of the mindset that we're just opening ourselves, but I'm not doing the preparation and I'm not cleansing my own erroneous belief systems, my own erroneous thoughts, and I'm just inviting anything in. You know, we open up the door and we yell, hey, we're having a party in here. You know, who's coming? God only knows who's going to walk through that door. You know, especially if we say, hey, free beer, come on. Now they'll really come running in. But the idea is, when you invite into self, you should be prepared. You should do I would say a preparation before you just open up. You know? So, in terms of a Ouija board, yeah. John was right. It can be very dangerous. Just like we take a gun. We got a 6-year-old comes through the door and we, you know, 5, 10 of them, we give them all loaded guns and say, go play Cowboys and Indians. You know, most likely they're going to cause some problems with those guns because they're not going to know what they have in their hand. And boom, 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 boom. Ouija board would be the same thing. Whether it's a Ouija board, whether you're just listening through meditation, whether you're doing automatic writing, however it comes to you, when you open up, know this: you're going to receive at the level you're open to. How are you going to receive something that you're not open to? You're not. You're going to get back what you put out there as what you're calling for.
And that's why I don't really like going to psychic meetings.
Many times when you go to a psychic meeting, and this is the problem. Good evening, Doug.
Good evening.
Hey, Doug.
Excuse me. Noise. Gotta go get some ice cream.
Okay. So anyway, maybe we'll get back on track over here. If does this make sense that we're going to choose our parents? We're going to have some say. You always have say. You always have say as to what you're calling for. Now, you can't necessarily have the exact details of every moment available to you and say, okay, here's what I'm going to do. No. You can decide on what part of self you want to work on. And when you focus in on what part of self, you're going to be given certain variables and say, here's what you get to play with to work on self.
Well, can't you also say, if you're good at kind of reviewing your life and what has been your sore spots, you can kind of figure out what you came down here to work on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like I say, wherever you happen to be, you can let go of all of it. I mean, this is something that really doesn't make any sense as long as we have a linear mind. As long as I have a linear mind, I look and I say, well, you know, I could make a list of things that, from the human perspective, if I was to get into a judgmental mode, I probably have a few imperfections. Just a few. Okay, but now, if I look at the spirit and I recognize that, wait a minute, let me see the bigger picture again. Spirit now already exists. As spirit, I'm already perfect. Then the only thing that is not true and valid is my belief based on my judgment. If I could let go of my judgment, I'm perfect. Wow. That means everyone else is perfect. That doesn't mean that they're experiencing their perfection. It just means that that's at their core, right? That's at my core. Now this is why I go so many times, I go back to linear time versus eternity. Because in terms of eternity, that which you're seeking already exists. That's a hard thing for us to grasp. It really is. Not to grasp, but to accept
Right.
and to live with. We can intellectualize it. Wait a minute. Okay, let's see that infinity symbol. And yeah, in terms of infinity, the past, the present, and the future, and now. Okay, yeah.
Have you ever seen the Kabbalah Tree of Life?
I don't believe I
It's
have.
not attractive.
What?
Okay.
The Kabbalah Tree of Life. It may have been in the book, I'm not sure. But it's a couple of circles. Quite frankly, I don't even remember what they stand for. But somebody just explained part of it to me this week, and I thought of you instantly. Because it's like a triangle with circles throughout. And then it has like a lightning bolt going like this, and then a straight line going up the center. And I learned this weekend that lightning bolt is kind of like how we do the linear, and that straight line is, or it's the two ways you can. And I thought,
Two ways you can experience.
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. I never knew that. That's what it stood for. To me, it's just an unattractive box.
Well,
Now I know what it means. I'm like, I'll be darned.
again, if we look at the dimensions, the linear dimensions, this way. Okay, Jesus said, "My Father's house are in many mansions, various dimensions." He said there are worlds without end. Now, if you're going to look at this and say, this goes this way infinitely and that way infinitely, doesn't end. Doesn't end. However,
Is it really plural? Worlds without end? Because I could have sworn that.
yeah, he says worlds without end.
World without end. Plural. Okay.
Plural. Well, to me, it's dimensions. The
Right.
dimensions of time and space. See, because linear time as we understand it is not true and valid, and it's an illusion, then there is no end to it. It ends the moment you let go of your attachment to seeing it. When you let go of your attachment to seeing it, it's no different than when we're angry at someone. You have an argument with someone. You're angry with them. Then you see him next week. You're still pissed. Blood's boiling. You see him another week later, still pissed. Maybe it'll go a year. You ever have you heard of anyone being mad at someone for a year? You know, they see each other and what was it, the McCoys and Hatfields, you know, they got the feud going on, and
Yeah.
for generations it goes on, and they're teaching their children, and children grow up, and each one's, they're feuding, and we hate the Hatfields, we hate the McCoys, and it goes on and on and on, and then a few centuries go by, and they say, well, what was that about? God, if I know, you know, nobody knows what it's about, but that just runs. So, yeah, it goes on, and then all of a sudden, it's over when they say, well, I don't want to keep this going. You want to let it go? You want to let it? Boom, it's finished. Right? Well, see that what that was based on was an illusion. Time and space is pretty much the same thing. As long as you hold on to an erroneous belief, I don't care what the belief is, it doesn't matter, because the principle works the same. The principle will always work the same. You hold on to something, you're stuck with it. You let it go, you're free of it. Pretty simple concept. That's why Christ said, what you hold in this world will be held in heaven. What you let loose in this world will be let loose in heaven. Right? Makes sense. I hang on to it. See, again, let's go back to the now. Here we are in the now. Now always is, isn't it? When's now going to be good? Now always is. Always, always is. Whether it's last week, 10 years from now, a millennium from now still is now. Right? We put a label, L-E or E-L?
Yeah.
We put a label on the now moment. We give it meaning. It is now 7:16. And we're in agreement. We've all decided that this is the correct time. Well, I guess close anyway. But we label everything, which now gives this now moment a meaning. And that meaning is relative.
And like what you were talking about earlier about alcoholic being labeled that. It's the label.
Yeah. Now, where's up? Can everyone point to up for me? Yeah? Yeah, that's
Everybody
up.
wants-
Up. Can you point to up?
Which way is up?
Okay.
It's up?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Against gravity, yeah.
Now, let's go out into space. In our minds, we just climbed a rocket ship, we blasted off, we're in space. Now point to up for me.
Wow. No, no.
Well, wherever
No.
my bed is.
You've lost your point of reference. Yeah, you're mine. Okay, well, now your rocket ship is upside down.
Maybe in trouble.
Okay, now you're in big trouble. You're pointing like this. You see, the point being is as soon as you lose your point of reference, you're losing that relativity. You're losing that meaning that we've given the now, right? So, as long as you hang on to a perception that has to remain the scope of your experience. This is why, I keep going back to this one, you can't serve God in mammon. God being spirit, and mammon being that which we would collectively group together and say the things of the world. Mammon? Whatever, close enough. Spirit and mammon. We have to make a decision. Now, with that being said, I'm going to just jump right back and go over the last thing that we talked about last week. And this is where we were on page 41. Jesus lived as a human. Therefore, he had to be made like his brethren in every respect, so that he might become merciful and faithful, a merciful and faithful high priest in the service of God, to make expiation for the sins of the people. So, there is I think we would all agree, there's a difference between viewing things from our spiritual awareness and our human intellect. Yeah, that's a simple one, right? Big difference. So, here Jesus comes into the world from the spiritual realm, which so did we, everybody did. But he didn't come in totally awake, without an ego mind, without the human personality to deal with,
Right.
without the struggle that we have, because he had to be made just like us and deal with the mammon stuff of the world. Just like us. That's what. Otherwise, what service would he be?
Right.
You know, the moment we see someone who was totally awakened from birth and never had any struggle, it's like I've always looked at and I say, you know, a priest being a marriage counselor just doesn't seem to fit. You know?
Yeah.
You look at someone who's never had the experience. I mean, anyone who's been married, you know, there are times when you have certain things that you deal with as a couple that you have to have the experience before you could relate, right? How's a priest going to relate to somebody married and some of the things that they go through? You know, no, it can't work. And this is why Jesus had to have a personality and deal with a human ego mind just like us. Just like us. That's what this is basically saying.
Can I bring up a point?
Please.
Jesus spent a lot of time from his early teens to middle or late 20s in the Essenes with that group, and in that time and space, he actually shifted in his spirituality so that what Bruce is talking about makes a lot of sense. And it's not it's not an intellectual process to sit and figure it out. You have to live it. And I was just wondering that if in this group we did the same kind of thing, like learned a meditative process or whatever it was, and practiced it daily, that eventually you'd shift into, wee bit by wee bit, you'd shift into a different understanding of who you really are.
I've many times said that's why I will be here as long as Bruce is here, because I try all week to practice, but the way I stay focused is I come back and rehash, even if it's the same thing.
Okay.
But you're noticing a shift
Absolutely.
in yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
I think the idea is you can't help but notice that what, you know, again, the law of attraction, that's a beautiful thing that they're talking about, the law of attraction. Let's say we're going to believe in the law of attraction as that which we're going to experience. Let's forget about spirituality for a moment. Let's just talk about the law of attraction. There's the intention. I state my intention. Now, once I state my intention, if I believe in the law of attraction, I'm going to attract whatever it is, right? Whatever. It doesn't matter what it is.
That occurs, yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So if I'm focused on my spiritual development, that's great. If I focus on my spiritual being, that's better. Okay. We have good, better, best.
Right.
The best would be I am. I'm what?
Yeah, that's
I am awake. They asked Buddha,
Yeah.
you're a god, you're an angel, you're a saint, what are you? He said, I'm awake.
Yeah.
Right? I'm awake. Well, if you recognize that as spirit is perfect. Because spirit comes from God. Not only comes from God, but is God. Spirit is God in expression. Okay. If we see spirit is imperfect, then God's imperfect. Then we got really deep problems. No, I wouldn't even want to. Well, I can't imagine. No, it can't even exist. God is perfect. God is love, and so the only perfection that you're going to find is when you focus and tune in on unconditional love. And that, if you state, this is my intention, that I am awake to the perfection of spirit, both in myself and everyone around me. Now that's a hard thing for us to pull off in this world.
Absolutely.
It is. It's going to be a difficult thing. And this is why Jesus said, you're going to have much tribulation. You're going to have a lot of tribulation, not just a little. You're going to have a lot of tribulation. Rest assured. Because this is the place where we are honing our ability. It's like sharpening a knife. You know, they first cast a knife and can't cut butter with it. It's, it's pretty dull. You have to sharpen it. Well, our spirits are perfect, but we're not connected to that perfection. So what we're doing is, through experience, perhaps lifetimes or eons of lifetimes, we are remembering the perfection. We do that through experience. The clearer your intention is, the clearer that experience is going to take form. It stands to reason, right? If I'm not clear, I turn on the radio and I'm in between stations. What do we got? Nothing but static. You get tune into the exact frequency and it comes through clear. That's why intention. Wayne Dyer, is that the one who wrote The Power of Intention?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there it is. Very, very powerful. You're not gonna find anything more powerful than getting clear on your intention, because the universe is going to reaffirm everything that you put out. That's why the Bible says, as you believe, so shall it be.
Yeah. Have you read that book? Who here has read it? See?
Yeah.
And it's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Makes pretty logical. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. And it's effective, so it's worth it to go get a copy of it. Yeah.
Whatever works. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, if you know, some people still find that if they go to church, that helps them. You know, I look and I say, whatever works for you. If it means read this book, read that book, follow the Kabbalah, do this, go get on your knees and go, you know, stand in front of an altar somewhere, whatever.
Join the Church of Oprah.
Join the Church of Oprah. Whatever
Yeah.
works. No.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, whatever works to reaffirm and help you stay centered with your intention. You know, there is no, this is where there are many paths. There are. And I've said this, all paths will ultimately lead you home if and only if you keep moving. Because many times what happens is somebody thinks, oh, this is it. Then they stagnate. They don't go anywhere. They find an aspect and they say, this is it. Well,
No.
if it's not the whole. You know, the Course in Miracles says this, if you want to understand totally, you must understand totality.
Oh. Yeah.
You have to understand totality. If you don't understand the complete, you know, again, that forest for the trees. You focus in on just one little thing, then you can't see the whole, because I'm too busy. You know, I'm enthralled with this. And that's why, like I say, even we talked about UFOs at one point, I don't want to get into extraterrestrial life and all of that, because you can get lost in that and get enthralled with, wow, you know, ETs. But now I'm so consumed with that and spend my life trying to prove that out that I lose the bigger picture.
Right.
You know, I lost a chance. What a chance we have. This is our opportunity. We're here, and in any given moment, we can choose to wake up. We can work towards waking up, or we can lose this and go at it all over again.
I just don't think there's enough teachers out there, because I have a resident that has a Bachelor of Science degree, and she's in one of the HUD units, which is like for real poor people of welfare. And I said, why are you doing this? And we had this big conversation, and guess what? She's put out a resume to teach. Because you're right, they're just...
You're right, I agree. There's not enough qualified teachers. I went to the Course in Miracles for like 3 years to different groups. I was going 3 times a week
Oh,
for 3 years, trying to find out what they know, what they don't know, where they're stuck or what have you. And you know what, after all that time and all that experience, what I found was, you're right, there are no qualified teachers. We had the blind leading the blind. We still have the blind leading the blind. But remember one thing, there is a perfection in every given moment relative to choices we're making. And everybody is going to find the teacher that's appropriate to where they happen to be. The reason this room is not full right now, most people are not ready for this level of understanding, which is okay. Those that are ready show up. Those that are not ready, I don't know, it could be tomorrow we'll have 1 million people or 1 billion people or whatever, I have no idea. And I've let go of having any expectation as to what it should not look like. I know one thing, as you understand, you're going to share. You share by being, right?
Yeah.
We're all being what we believe to be. As we grow and evolve in our understanding, we're being something different.
Somebody else, you know, is going to stump you because you can't really understand where they're coming from either, but they're at another level of awareness or consciousness.
Which is perfect for
they're
them.
perceiving things okay, huh?
And that's perfect for them.
Yeah.
It's perfect for them. Everybody is perfect where they are. No, that's hard.
Yeah.
This is very hard for me to say everyone's perfect where they are, because I also have come into this world to say, hey, wake up. You know. So I look and I say, on one hand, whatever they're experiencing is perfect. On the other hand, we are always being called to open our eyes to see something more. Now, some people would disagree with that, and I say that's God's will. That is God. God's only will is that you're being called to experience a greater amount of true spiritual self. That's
Just
God's
think
will.
of the gazillions of people who've got this really lousy self-image. Oh, they're terrible. And so they do stupid stuff, ego-driven, to fix it, what the heck ever. But just to look at something that says, I am a beautiful creation of God, just like I am, with no preconditions, and to understand that is a huge shift for some of those people. That's a huge shift in self-awareness. Woo!
But that's
And
the
they're
key.
never, and they get out of that damn fear-filled environment they live in, because they get past it. Yeah.
See, that's true because over at our apartments, if that's true because in our apartments they all call, my nickname is the princess, and so now that we're all princesses, and when you teach that to somebody, they lift their head higher and they feel better about
I do that
themselves.
with street people, up north. You just got to get them to quit thinking of being in the bottom of their shoe. They're not there, but they don't perceive it any differently.
But we live in a society. We live in a society that would like to keep us there.
Oh, sure.
We live in a society where it's easier to control and manipulate when you keep people.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
I look at the church that I used to belong to, and one of the things on Sunday, I don't know how many are Catholic, but I remember this one statement: "Lord, I am not worthy." I mean, oh my God, what a thing to plant into your mind. Lord, I am not worthy.
No.
Lord, I am not worthy. Talk about having an unworthiness consciousness. We are reinforcing it every time we put that thought in there. I am not worthy. I'm a sinner. I'm not worthy. Oh my God, please.
Church did a hell of a good
I'm
job
not
on
worthy to
that.
receive it. You only say the word and I shall be healed.
Yeah, exactly. I shall be healed. Well,
Yeah.
now again, see, that's reinforcing that linear track. It's gonna keep you in that linear mode. And not only is it going to keep you in a linear mode, but it's almost like somebody, I'm an alcoholic.
Right.
Yo, guess what? You're an alcoholic.
Yeah.
You know what? You believe it, you are. And I believe in the power of belief. And you plant that thought in your mind, I'm this, I'm that, you're right. They are. They're exactly what they say they are. As human beings, we're exactly what we believe we are. Okay? We are. We're exactly what we believe we are.
That's a good statement, yeah.
As spiritual beings, we're far from what we think we are. So we have a choice. See, that's why this book was going to be called The Ultimate Choice. The choice is this. How do you want to experience yourself? Not see yourself. How do you want to experience yourself? You want to experience yourself as a human? We've had a lot of practice. We know how to do that. Do you want to experience yourself as spirit? You can. And here's what I said many years ago to somebody. Because somebody said to me, what's in it for me? I said, oh, okay. What's in it for you? Well, let's see. You can go on the way you've been going. You can keep yourself in terms of this frustrated state of human. Or you can wake up and understand unconditional love and see yourself as one with all of it and have a different experience. That's what's in it. And I said, tell you what, try it. If you don't like it, you can always go back. You know what this is. You know what human is. You know where you've been. Pretty familiar. If this doesn't work, go back.
Yeah.
You don't have to, it's not like, oh, I can't go back. Well, let me say this. Once you become spiritually awakened to greater and greater levels, it is hard to go back to sleep and pretend you don't know. That's true. You really will have a difficult. Once you come to see everyone in the world as unconditionally loving spiritual brothers and sisters, it will be very hard for you to go back and judge them. It will. I mean, that's one of the obstacles you're going to deal with if you decide to go back.
Jeez.
But anyway.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I've been through that. The mechanisms of, say, numerology or, what's the one, shoot, I lose words. It's the age of Aquarian now, that'd be
Astrology?
astrology. I sat through that stuff, never made one twit of sense. In fact, my lady who was my advisor was telling the lady who ran the seminary, he says, "You know what? Let's not try to bug him too much on this numerology and this astrology stuff. He's an engineer and he's just, he's, you're never going to get there, okay? So just pick your place. This ain't one of them, you know."
Well, again, I would
Yeah,
say
just-
I would say that has numerology and astrology would have some
But to somebody from where they're coming from,
for that individual.
see, that's okay for those guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no question.
Yeah.
Wherever somebody happens to be coming from, that is for them.
That's okay. That's for them.
And so,
And I can just back away from it, step aside, and go forward looking for something else. And that's I've done that 28 times, I'm sure.
yeah, you can always choose the spiritual over the human.
Yeah, I was just doing fine. Yeah, step aside and keep walking.
So that's exactly why Jesus, and that's why we're talking about this. This is a very, 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 very important point for Christians to understand that Jesus lived as a human with frailties, with faults, and succumbed every once in a while. I'm not saying that he failed. He didn't fail. Jesus succeeded. He definitely succeeded.
Yeah.
But he lived as a human.
Yep.
And he did it in order to relate and to know firsthand the pain and suffering man experiences in this world. Anybody in this room ever get drunk?
What?
You ever get drunk in your life? Did you ever experience a hangover? Okay,
Hot pipe.
now, I have. I've experienced a hangover. And I can say this. If I never had the experience of getting drunk and having a hangover, I could never relate to somebody who had a hangover from being drunk. Right? How could you? You don't know what it's like. I can't tell a woman what it's like to give birth. No way. But a woman can talk to another woman and say, "Hey, yeah, oh, I felt that, yeah, holy."
Bruce, after that man gives birth, ask him.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, but
Lord.
he's not really a
There
him.
we go.
He's not really a him per se, so
What is that?
anyway.
That was a seahorse.
Well, here Jesus had to deal with the same wants, desires, and temptations that we all face. Although Jesus came to bring forth understanding. Yeah. He could have given into his ego and gotten lost in the world. He too was faced with the emotions and the challenge of dealing with the ego, the human mind. To me, this is so powerful. And this is one of the biggest points that Christianity is not helping people understand. They're missing this.
Right side.
Jesus is the only man without sin, the only begotten Son, Jesus is so special.
How can you
Wait a
say
minute.
that when you have in the Bible that he threw chairs? I mean,
Well, yeah, well, that's my point. But they have reinterpreted. It's like, I don't know. It's like someone does one thing in their life, and all of a sudden they elevate that person. You see a star, a movie star, right? The movie star now is at a stature, they're whole, and we forget they have a life. We forget they were human. We forget that they had relationships with other people. They're in a whole different realm. And we view them differently. Well, that's what they did with Christ. That's what they did with Jesus. I shouldn't say the Christ, because Christ was above. Christ was that which is spiritually awakened. But Jesus, as the man, struggled. And when we recognize that, now you're going to have a more respect for what he did. for what he came here to do.
Yeah.
And it's going to help when you have a moment, because we all do. We all have moments every once in a while where we forget that we're supposed to remain awake and non-judgmental. You know, it happens. It may not be in this moment, but you may find you step out the door and you judge somebody. It could very well happen. So keep this in mind that Jesus too struggled.
You could step out the door and judge somebody.
Prevalent is the false belief that Jesus was a man without sin. Throughout the New Testament, Jesus demonstrates qualities of both states of consciousness, such as flipping chairs, tables, that of man, emotion, and that of spirit, unconditional love. He demonstrated both. And you know what? We too demonstrate both. We do.
You're right.
We are doing the same things that Jesus is doing. We're not totally consciously cognizant in every moment, but we have moments. Each of us has a moment of breakthrough. Each of us has a moment when we stop judging another and we just interact with that moment from a conscious state and act out of love. I'm not talking out of my perception of what I should do. Should I or shouldn't I? Maybe I will, maybe I won't. And then I use my judgmental mind to determine what I'm going to do in this given moment. That's not coming out of unconditional love. No. It's coming from a human mind, and I'm trying to be good. I'm talking about you're in this moment and you're interacting with it. Whatever you're doing, you're there. That's unconditional love. We've all had this happen to us, I'm sure, at one time or another. Right? We don't stay there. Most of the times we don't. But anyway, we can do it. In the following passage, Jesus, here's the one with the fig tree, right? In the following passage, Jesus is hungry, and as he approaches Jerusalem. How does he react to the fig tree without figs? This is Mark 21, 18 through 19. In the morning, as he was returning to the city, he was hungry, and seeing a fig tree by the wayside, he went to it and found nothing on it, but leaves only. Okay, now imagine yourself walking down the street. You're hungry. There's a fig tree. Figs. I love figs when I'm hungry. And you go up to the tree,
Yeah.
and there's nothing on it.
Yeah. Somebody
Right?
else picked them.
Somebody must have picked them. There's nothing there. So what does he say? May no fruit ever come from you again. And the fig tree withered at once.
Oh, fig tree
Now,
right at once.
withered.
Withered.
It died.
Right.
That was it. Gone.
Yeah.
Now, is this the act of an unconditionally loving God?
That's a human
That's
fix.
a human reaction.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Yes.
No question. Now, this is in the Christian Bible, mind you. I didn't come up with this. This is there. This was not an illustration of love from one that was perfect and beyond judgment. Clearly, Jesus was showing his disappointment that there was no fruit. Only the human mind could entertain and act upon such an unloving act. Spirit couldn't do it. Tree was innocent. Why should it die?
Yeah.
It died because I'm hungry and pissed. That's the only reason. It's the only reason. And I mean, I've acted out of anger once. Yeah.
Yeah.
As a man, Jesus had moments of temptation. What made him different from other men, however, was that he came here to lay down his personal life, his ego, and live a higher purpose.
He
And then-
learned that.
John 10:17 through 18. Well, he learned,
Yeah.
let me say this.
Yeah.
I would say this, Doug. In the now moment exists linear time, right? The dimensions of time and space.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Okay? Now, here's Jesus in a spiritual realm.
Yeah.
Okay? Which, just like you are before you were here, spiritual realm. Boom. He comes into this dimension to play this role.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? He came in to play. To play what? To play Savior. To play the Christ. He did. He came in to play the Christ. Did he do it?
Sure.
Yeah, he did his job. Now, was he consciously cognizant of his spiritual perfection in every given moment? No.
No.
No. What triggered it? Well, maybe he went off to the east and he learned the different traditions. Maybe he went with the Essenes and they taught him something. Maybe he went, whatever it was, whatever catalyst it was that triggered that within him to awaken him to this, to the perfection in his job. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I look at my job now today. I had some wild experiences growing up. I mean, it's some pretty wild stuff. You know, I gotta say, you know, I look at this book today. I look at this picture of creation. And I say, I gotta accept what's been given me and what I know. I know it's true, and I look and I say, son of a bitch. Some of the things I did, some of the things I experienced, you know, pretty wild. And I didn't know what I know today.
Yeah, right.
It was within. I didn't know it. I do now. But now I can look and I can see, well, Jesus was not 100% awake every moment. We read the Bible. It talks about Jesus going off to meditate in the desert. Get away from his apostles for a while. You guys stay. I got to go recharge, basically.
Yeah.
I have to reconnect. Well, if you're already fully consciously awake, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to go anywhere. And I can tell you this because I literally was walking in this world and not of this world for quite a while. I'm not carrying that same vibration I was carrying at one point. I don't know when I'll get back or what's going to happen, but I can honestly tell you that. And I know we all feel within ourselves. You're witnessing self. If the more you witness self, the more you're going to see different states, right? I used to see this, now I see this. Oh, I had a moment over here, I had a moment over, and you're witnessing, you know,
Yeah.
you can take this to greater and greater degrees, and you can become more and more awake. We can. That's what Jesus really came here to teach. The Christ is awake and unconditionally loving. Jesus, the man, was not necessarily there 24/7.
You know, I was just watching something off of NBC last week, I think. And this lady was interviewing Dalai Lama. And she was asking hard, straight-out questions. And you could see, you know, he would give a soft, easy response from the background, from the point of view of loving. But if you watched him, you could see that he was under stress while he was doing it. So that human quality of that guy in his yellow suit was still there.
The moment you engage the ego mind, you know, there's a fine line. I used to have a group that I met with up in Sarasota for a while. I used to go on a weekly basis. And we'd start off and do a meditation. And then in a meditative state, I would just open. And sometimes I would just speak, and what came through was spirit coming through. Sometimes I would be half aware of what I'm saying. Sometimes what the hell did I say? You know, but yeah. But the idea is, in order for us to be fully awakened spiritually, we must state the intention and move consciously to experiencing more than our ego personalities. You know, it's like, I made something once and I was going to use it for a demonstration, and what I made was two lights. And I had a toggle switch in the middle. And you turn on one, you turn the switch to one side, this light comes on. And you'd have to flip on the other side, the other light goes on, and this one goes off. Well, it's kind of like that. In terms of our ego personalities, or the spirit, you know, the I am of the soul has to determine who's going to be in charge. Has to be. I mean, the ego is not in charge. As much as most people think that their ego is in charge of them and they have no choice, they have no choice because we have conditioned ourselves to be autopilot, to be on auto response. Something happens, we respond to that. We live in a world that is a world of conditioning. Drive down the road, the light turns red, light turns green, we go. You know, so we're triggering ourselves to be responsive to our environment, right? From a judgmental mind, and we all have our concept of what we're supposed to be doing and not supposed to be doing in any given moment. Spirit, however, Spirit sees a whole different picture. And this is why someone said to me, well, what would you do if this happened? Or what would you do if that happened? And what I say today, I don't know. How would you handle this? I don't know. I'll let you know in that moment.
Oh, yeah.
Witness what I do in that moment, and then you have your answer. Don't ask me to know what I'm going to do, because if I say I know what I'm going to do, Spirit isn't telling me what to do in that moment. My ego has already mapped out what I'm going to do. Two different experiences. Totally. Anyway, as a man, Jesus had his moments. What made him different? I read this tonight. John 10, 17, 18. For this reason, the Father loves me. This is Jesus talking. Because I lay down my life, that I may take it again. No man takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. This is the charge I have received from my Father. It's exactly what I was just talking about. This is the exact point I'm talking about. When I say, I don't know what I'm going to do if this happens, what I'm saying is, I'm listening to Spirit and let Spirit guide me as to what I should do. I'm laying down my ego life. I can pick it up again. I can say, the hell with that, I'm doing this. You know what I mean? We have this within us. This is what free will is about. Free will is, no, I'm doing this, but yes, what? I'll do it. You know, it's am I going to follow my intellect, my human mind? Because I know what's right, I know what's wrong, I know what I should be doing. What are you talking about? You don't know Czech, right?
Yeah.
So, right? So this is what it means. This is what this passage was about when it says, I lay down my life freely. No man takes it from me. No one's telling me, Bruce, you must listen and you must do. No, it's my choice. We all have a choice here.
Oh, yes.
Right? Who's in charge of making you listen to Spirit over your own intellect? Nobody. You can do whatever you want. So if I listen to Spirit in this moment, lay down my life, the very next moment I can go back. This is why Paul said, I die on a daily basis.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
I listen to Spirit, now I'm listening to me. I listen to Spirit, I'm listening to me.
Yeah.
See the difference? There is a huge difference in that which we experience. One is life, one is death. Death is following our intellect. Now that doesn't make sense to us. What are you talking about? I'm walking, I'm talking, I can feel the body, I'm here. No, this is death. Life is that which exists beyond the intellectual thinking mind, beyond our judgments of the world around us, and witnessing from a more conscious state. That's life. Life is being consciously cognizant of my relationship to God and seeing everything and everyone as a part of that. That's life. Whether I'm calling myself a Christian, a Buddhist, a Muslim, a Hindu, or doesn't matter. When I'm honoring the whole, I am one with God. Right? Now I'm not differentiating anyone or anything. It's all equal, and it's all illusionary too. But the idea is when you can bring it to that state, experientially, each one of us becomes the Christ. Right? You become the Christ.
No,
So,
yes.
how did Jesus come here to save you, Doug?
How did he come here?
How did he save you? Did Jesus come as a savior?
To teach us.
To teach us.
By a demonstration.
By demonstrating.
Yeah.
And now,
Yeah.
this is why he said, you must pick up your own cross and follow me. We all got our own work to do. Anyone who tells you you don't have a job to do because Jesus died for you and you're saved, I'd say you better reevaluate your situation, because you're not going to have the experience that you believe you're going to have. You're going to find that you
You
wasted
have
you
no
wasted
idea
your
what you're
time
doing.
in this realm, in this gift that they call life. This is the opportunity right here, this moment, this one. It's tomorrow too, but but this is tomorrow. Now always is. You don't have to put it off. You may not accept it in, what day is today? You may not accept it on the 16th of April, but tomorrow you could, or next week, or next year, or 1 millennium from now.
Yeah.
But whatever. Anyway, that's what a very, very important point also that I wanted to really talk about. That Jesus could have had his ego come in, which he did on a few occasions.
Sure.
Now here's where I lost one of the customers in here, and the guy said, I will never, ever step foot in this place again as long as you're here. And he had 8 kids too.
Yeah, he did.
But anyway, he picked up my book. He's a really, really good Christian, and he picked up this book. And here's what he opened up to: Jesus was no more God than you are.
I'm out of here.
Who? That's it.
See?
That's it. Lost him. Now
Oh, yeah. That blows socks off.
that did.
That would. Yeah. That's awful. Yeah.
What's the rest of that passage?
Okay, it goes like this. Jesus fully acknowledged having an ego, which he did, with all of its frailties. Before full acceptance of the Christ consciousness, Jesus recognized that he too was subject to moments of delusion, i.e., choosing the ego, the human experience over the spiritual one. In those moments, he was not perfect, and he was like any other man. Okay? Now that pissed the guy off completely, because he was told Jesus was perfect, and I'm saying, no, he wasn't perfect. And here in Luke